shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Behave yourselves!
Hello YouTubers out there, this is Jerry Saravia at the movies. So today we're taking a brief look at possibly one of the greatest anti-war films. No, not possibly, it is one of the greatest anti-war films, if not the greatest anti-war film I've ever seen, called Come and See, which was released back in 1985. It's a Russian film by a director named Alan Klimov, who, this was his last picture. He had made some films prior to this. And this is a film that deals with the Belarus partisans during the time of World War II in 1943, right in Belarus on the Eastern Front. So we see these two young kids who are playing around right in the beginning of the picture. And one is wearing a German helmet and is pretending to be German and getting ready to, you know, attack this other kid who's a 13-year-old. And right away, you're not sure exactly what's happening. It looks like they're playing war games to a certain extent. This kind of reminded me a little bit of the opening of Born on the 4th of July by Oliver Stone, which also showed a younger Ron Kovic playing war games thinking he was John Wayne. And then, of course, the reality of war sets in. And that's kind of what happens here. The main kid is Fliora, played by Alexei Kravchenko. So he's playing in the dirt, and then he's struggling, and he's in anguish right away. And we don't know exactly what's happening, and the kid with the German helmet thinks there's a problem. And what it is he's pulling a rifle right out of the dirt. And this is where the film really takes off. And then we see a plane that's flying overhead. We don't know who they are, really, or anything else. But then it's established that it's 1943, and this is on the Eastern Front. And 628 villages were burned by the SS brigade, the Nazis. So the film is really the story of this kid, summoned by the Russians, or the Belarus partisans rather, to become a young soldier in their militia. And really, at first he's on watch. So anybody that comes nearby who doesn't identify themselves, he can shoot them, but he doesn't do that. And so then they take off and leave him behind with another partisan who's a little older, and his boots are worn out. And so this kid wears them, and he's weeping. He wanted to be part of the militia. He sees this one girl, Glasha, who is a partisan nurse. And the two of them are kind of laughing at each other and so on and so forth. And then before you know it, there's some sort of a bombing campaign, paratroopers from the sky fall, and this war is continuing, and sort of deafens his hearing a little bit. And but they kind of hide out together. Ultimately, war follows them. The nightmare of war follows them. So there's no escaping it. And what was fascinating about this film was also the use of the close-ups, which are very startling. They're kind of, it's a startling effect, which is not very common in most movies, where they seem to be staring right at the audience in close-up. And those close-ups really work. So whether it's Fliora in anguish and looking at the screen like, you know, you are suffering along with me, or Glasha doing the same thing, in tears or whatever the case may be because of everything that's going on around them, atrocities and all sorts of things. It's just too much to handle. And the movie has a bunch of truly memorable, intense scenes. But the interesting thing is that they really come from the nightmare of war. It's almost as if it's a story being told, which apparently this screenplay was by Alice Adamovich, who's an actual child soldier with the Belarus partisans in World War II. And Alan Klimov himself was running into the Ural Mountains with his mother and his sister, so a baby sister, I believe. So they both have these experiences of that war. The film has a very dark, muddied look to it. It's very extremely gritty in that sense. Very uncompromising, the whole film completely. But in particular, the images here, and there's one where the Germans are holding Fliora at gunpoint, and you think they're going to kill him, they're going to shoot him, and it's all in the service of a picture being taken by another SS officer. The church burning sequence, which is extremely agonizing to watch. There's a little, it's maybe one of the few times in the film, a little sardonic humor, believe it or not, because one of the SS brigade officers, when they're trying to push him into this church, and another one is a barn and all these places, and locking it, one of them gets stuck inside. He says, "No, let me out. I'm with you guys. I'm a German. You know, they need to stay in." You know, that's about as sardonic as a movie it really gets. Then there's the relentless gunfire overhead that nearly kills Fliora when he and this other partisan steal a cow, and they try milking it and all this stuff, and then there's gunfire. The other partisan dies. Fliora is almost killed, and the cow dies. So all through the movie, he survives one obstacle after another, and in particular the church burning, because he decides the Germans make this pledge to the people inside. They said, "The adults, please let your children out. You know, we'll save the children, but you are all going to perish in there," which they're not sure what's going to happen, but I guess they can assume that there's going to be it's going to be a fire and they're going to burn to death. And he gets out. He's the first one out, Fliora. So the movie it has those scenes, the effigy of Hitler that's left standing in the middle of the road, which we see earlier in the picture. The Nazi generals who don't want to look at Fliora, who gets out of the church alive. There's just a lot of stuff, but in particular, towards the end, and it's best when you view the picture and see it, is when Fliora finds a framed photograph of Hitler, and he starts shooting at it. And I'll just leave it at that. It's agonizing. The whole film is agonizing. His pained look and expression, I'll never forget it. I was almost back practically on the verge of tears after I saw the picture. That's when you know it's a powerful movie. I wasn't on the verge of tears while watching it, although it certainly is a very intense picture to watch. But afterwards, his face, which, you know, it's like he basically ages 10 years during these events. He was just a kid, and he has wrinkles in his face. His hair grows white. I mean, it's the very soul. His face is the very soul of war as an immoral action. So although we can understand the people defending themselves against war and all these Germans, and there is quite a sequence there too, with the Germans being cornered and they're by the Russians who are pointing their rifles at them, and a couple of them plead with them, "Please don't kill us. You know, we were just following orders. That's all." And one of the other Germans says, "No. You people deserve to die. Essentially, you're inferior." And that's what was fascinating about the picture. It presents a picture that is very honest and unblinking. I disagree with a lot of people who were saying, it's mostly comments from people on YouTube or whatever. I don't really take them to heart, although there have been a couple of critics who said the same thing, which is, well, pictures like Saving Private Ryan and Apocalypse Now and anything else about war, that's practically Disney compared to this picture. I don't agree with that. I think the difference with this film, first of all, saying they're like Disney movies is ridiculous. It kind of diminishes the power of those pictures, which did a very good job of presenting war as just an animal, a beast. Full Metal Jacket, especially the dehumanizing effects of war. This film is not really about that. It's about seeing it from the perspective of peasants, of people who are poor, who are just barely getting by, and suddenly war interferes with their their life. Whatever placidity existed is interfered with, and that's really the key to this picture. But in particular, seeing it from the point of view of this kid. Now, not every shot in the movie is from his point of view, but practically everything is. And we get that perspective often enough, and especially those close-ups, where he's looking right into the camera. It's really quite effective. It's kind of a technique that a few directors have used. I saw it in, of all things, about a year ago. They called me Mr. Tibbs. Very interesting. Kind of a disorienting effect in a way, where actors seem to be looking right at you, not off to the side or anything else. But also Jonathan Demme is a director who has used that technique in some of his films, and to very positive effect. But yeah, come and see. I would say, you know what, if you really want to see a film, a war film about war, as basically, as I said, an immoral action, and that it really drives it home from the point of view of a kid, and how this kid sees so much horror and pain that he's not transfixed by it, he is just overwhelmed by it, to say the least. This is a film to see, you have to see, come and see. There is a book out there called, which I've only glanced at, I don't own the book, 1001 Movies to See Before You Die, or something like that. This is one of those films. Come and see. Check it out. It's on YouTube. It won't be long before I really will probably see this film again. I think it would be, it's also available on Amazon, but I would definitely purchase a DVD of this picture. Absolutely. And I'm sorry I never got to see this with an audience. Again, this is a film I've heard about for years. I'm glad I finally saw it, and it was on my bucket list of films, you know, I guess what you want to call important films, but basically just films to see. Come and see. Do check it out. It is one hell of an experience, but it is not like other war pictures at all. This is very much about the ugliness of immoral actions, the grim reality of war as an inevitability. You know, that once war begins, it's right around the corner everywhere, you know, and fascinating point of view, fascinating, just every way. I would definitely say it's a masterpiece. There's not a single thing about this film that I would, there's not a single thing about this film that I would sense needs to be changed. And by the way, the final scene of him shooting the picture, and I won't give away too much at all, it seems to go on for far too long until you realize what the point is of it. It's really quite something. So check out this film. Come and see. 1985. It's not an experience you'll ever forget. Love it, hate it, because of what it presents. I don't think anyone will deny its power. I don't know of anyone that denies this film's power. And its very oppressive nature itself. Also the soundtrack, too. The soundtrack is quite oppressive, but gradually gets oppressive, you know, and the sounds and everything else just of war, of rifles being fired, but also of just a sense of foreboding. It really is just an amazing, amazing film in every respect. I can't say enough good things about it, so do check it out. And that's all I got to say about that. Have you seen Come and See? And if you have, lend me your thoughts. If you haven't, what other war films do you really find depict war, whether it's anti-war or not? Usually not pro-war. There aren't too many movies, I guess, or maybe some in the past. Flag waving. This is not one of those pictures. But tell me, lend me your thoughts. Tell me what you think. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to my channel. And if you are a subscriber, please hit that notification bell for future uploads. And that's all I got to say about this. And this is Jerry Saravia at the Movies.